GTFO is an interesting title for a video game. It's a pejorative phrase that most of us are already familiar with. Unlike many other games, the title GTFO doesn't actually refer to a person, place, or thing that can be found within the game itself. Instead, the name evokes a few raw emotions: intense fear, acute stress, and suffocating anxiety. It perfectly captures the sensations that you will more than likely experience as you play this game. Because no matter what, bad things will happen to you. Whether you're making a crucial mistake or you're faced with an endless horde, eventually you'll be wanting to get the fuck out. If you've never heard of this game before, I don't blame you. It's developed and published by 10 Chambers, a Swedish indie studio. It's a relatively niche game that has a certain target audience. It appeals to the more hardcore fans of the FPS genre, such as milsims and tac shooters. But despite its niche appeal, I think it's safe to say that GTFO has been a sleeper hit. My name's Andre, and let's talk about GTFO. To frame my thoughts and impressions about the game, I just want to say first and foremost that I don't belong to the hardcore FPS crowd. Instead, I generally play FPS games casually. For example, I've poured hundreds of hours into competitive shooters like CSGO and Valorant over the last, decade now. And that's mostly for social reasons. I mean, it makes sense, right? People tend to play multiplayer games with friends, and GTFO for me is no exception. I think I started playing GTFO a few years back in early access. At the time, I wanted to play literally anything else other than Valorant or League with my friends, and then I saw this game on sale on Steam, and that's why I got it. As such, I'm approaching this game from a more outsider's perspective. I just played this game with the boys from time to time, and that's really all there is to it. Now, with all of that out of the way, if you don't know anything about GTFO, let me give you a quick rundown. Set in the near future, GTFO is an extreme cooperative horror shooter. You and hopefully 3 other friends play as one of 4 death row inmates who have once committed god-awful crimes in the past. Held against your will, with your memories partly erased, you follow the orders of the Warden, an unknown entity that sends you deep underground into a vast facility called the Complex. Every expedition you go on is nothing short of a suicide mission. At every turn, you'll encounter sleepers, vicious monsters that lurk within the complex. Sleepers come in all shapes and sizes, but they all share one thing in common. As soon as you make the tiniest bit of noise that alerts them, they will stop at nothing to tear you apart. Now, I absolutely love this game, and for not the right reasons probably, and I'll get back to that in a second. First though, I just want to say how much I love the way the game sets the tone and atmosphere. When you boot up the game, it wastes no time and immediately immerses you into its world by dropping you into the main menu. Just hold and inject. Once you're in, you can choose a rundown within the complex, which are basically a series of expeditions that you can play. As a rule of thumb, the deeper you go inside a rundown, the harder the expeditions get. A-level expeditions are the easiest, and E-level expeditions are the most batshit insane difficult. Honestly though, calling A-level expeditions easy is extremely disingenuous for how hard they can be. This game takes a lot of trial and error. There are a few expeditions my friends and I kept failing over and over again, and to this day we still haven't beaten it. But that's the thing, you're expected to fail in GTFO. I would even argue it's designed to kick your ass. This is especially true for your first attempt at any expedition, when you have no idea what's coming and you're forced to brave into the unknown. Completing an expedition on your first try is the exception, not the norm. There was a crazy stat I read a while ago that the developers posted saying that around 91% of all expedition attempts fail. 9 out of 10 fail. But despite these numbers, the game's difficulty is one of the main reasons why I like this game, and why many people may disagree with me and call me crazy. GTFO is a brutally punishing game where even the tiniest mistakes could result in a mission fail. At first, its marketing might seem cringe. Like, oh, they kept using adjectives like hardcore and extreme, but honestly, they really should have used stronger words. Ruthless, sadistic, even borderline traumatic would have been better suited in describing the classic GTFO experience. That's because GTFO doesn't pull any punches. It confronts you with a series of difficult challenges and it expects you to figure out a way to solve them like an adult. It doesn't baby you when you're struggling or give you pity points when you fail. And personally, I just really like video games that let me figure things out on my own. Games that don't hold my hand at every step of the way. Sure, failing is never a good feeling. But instead of fully giving up, we are determined to improve the game and make adjustments to better suit our next expedition. And that's a testament of a game being fun, regardless of how hard it is. I would argue that the moments when you're sharing ideas with your friends, reflecting on the things you could have done better, and honestly just learning how to work better as a team is what makes GTFO a game worth playing. GTFO is unapologetically difficult. Personally, I appreciate the game's difficulty level. I mean, sure, there are times when it feels like some expeditions are just impossible to beat, and it could be absolutely dejecting and heart-wrenching in the moment. But on the other hand, there is no better feeling than completing expeditions that you once thought was impossible. In GTFO, every expedition is stacked against you. You're always the underdog, faced with insurmountable odds. And that is because the game is intentionally designed to be punishing, probably too much at times, I gotta admit. In the words of the developers, be warned. GTFO isn't your typical run and gun shooter. It's for players that value a serious challenge. Fundamentally speaking, the game expects you to hit most, if not all, of your shots. This is because ammo and all the other resources in general are incredibly scarce. You start an expedition with around 50% ammo for both your weapons. That means you have to find ammo packs throughout the level to replenish your ammo. Ammo packs which you share with your friends, by the way, and that often means there's not going to be enough to go around. The scarcity of ammo actively discourages you from running and gunning throughout the expedition. You'll find that you'll quickly go dry after dealing with 1, maybe 2 back-to-back hordes of sleepers. It teaches you that shooting your gun under most circumstances should be considered as the last resort. As such, the game promotes a slower, more methodical approach in exploring the seemingly endless zones filled with sleepers. In other words, stealth is your best friend. Sleepers can't see, and they rely on some kind of hearing/echo location, although I don't know the exact details. That means most sleepers can be stealth killed with 1 well-placed hit with your melee weapon. This painstaking method of stealth killing sleepers is the best way to conserve ammo. However, there will always come a point in an expedition that you cannot use stealth, a point where you have to go guns blazing. And at this moment, you absolutely should not be whiffing your shots. GTFO doesn't adjust for how badly players are doing like in some other games. It doesn't give you more ammo when you're dry, extra health packs when you're low, or even spawn less enemies when you're doing really bad. There are no handouts, no freebies in this game. It is up to the players to conserve their health and resources as much as possible to complete the expedition that they're on. GTFO is a punishing game at its core, but mastery over the game's mechanics over time also makes it incredibly fun and immensely rewarding whenever you do overcome the problems you're faced with. The game is so intensely difficult that it forces you to actually work together with your teammates. Work together or die together. This is the game's slogan, and it is practically gospel. The game is designed, meant, to be played with a team of 4 players. Expeditions are balanced around that, and if you're not working together with your team, you ain't making out of the expedition alive, plain and simple. Unless you're a speedrunning turbo gamer with god-level movement, you're going to need the help of your friends to clear these expeditions. And so, whether you're playing with the boys or riding solo, you better be prepared because this game's gonna be one hell of a struggle. As I continue to talk about GTFO and praise its difficulty being one of my favorite aspects of the game, I know that some people may have a problem with that, and I want to give my 2 cents on the matter. I'm specifically referring to the ongoing debate within the gaming community regarding the relationship between game difficulty and accessibility. If you're not familiar with this debate, essentially some people are claiming that certain games are wrongly inaccessible for being too hard. And this is mostly because of the fact that these games offer no difficulty options to make them easier. Now, this issue mostly originated due to the rise in popularity of FromSoft's games, with their games being infamously hard by design. From that logic, GTFO would fall into the same category of being quote-unquote inaccessible, and I just wholeheartedly disagree with this notion. First and foremost, I think that game difficulty is a matter of preference, not accessibility. Accessibility in gaming deals with unintentional barriers in gaming that some players may experience, often due to a disability. Things like colorblind mode, closed captioning, special gamepads, etc. are legitimate aspects of accessibility being addressed in gaming. And I think people misconstrue a game being not meant for them as being inaccessible to them. But guess what? Certain games are made and marketed for certain types of gamers. That's just how consumerism works. A game studio implementing game difficulty is a matter of preference, not accessibility. Here's a basic analogy. I prefer not to eat seafood. In fact, I refuse to eat seafood most of the time, including sushi. Me complaining about a game being too hard for me and then asking for an easier difficulty option when it's not being offered would be like if I went to a sushi place and complained that they didn't serve anything I could eat because all they served was sushi. It doesn't make any sense. Simply put, if people don't like or cannot play hard games, either because they're unwilling to or unable to put in the time and effort to get good enough to enjoy them, then they shouldn't be playing hard games. It's just not meant for them, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Before I even boot up a game like Dark Souls or GTFO, I already know what kind of game I'm getting myself into. Whether it's from the game's title, cover art, or marketing, I can tell when a game is gonna kick my ass, and I am completely on board with that as soon as I buy and open up the game. There's a reason why genres and categories exist. No game should appeal nor accommodate to everyone. In fact, it is quite literally impossible. And just in case I need to clarify, I'm not opening this whole can of worms just so I can gatekeep games like GTFO and Dark Souls and all these other hard games from people it doesn't cater toward. I'm a prime example of someone who legitimately enjoys a game like GTFO despite the fact that I don't belong in its immediate target audience. I rarely ever play super hardcore tactical shooters, but I'm having a blast with GTFO even if it's not in my comfort zone. And that's because I respect and appreciate the kind of game it wants to be. Now, I'm not saying that GTFO is a perfect game. I definitely do have a lot of criticisms about the game. I wish there was literally any kind of progression system that would motivate me to play more instead of just getting lame boosters and drip I can't even see most of the time because it's a first-person game. I wish there were cooler weapons and more tools I could use. I wish there was more level diversity because the levels can get very repetitive at times. It's mostly just mines and labs and mines and labs. And that's just a few of the many gripes I have about GTFO. No game is perfect, even with the games I love the most. But at the end of the day, I respect that GTFO has a core identity that never seems to falter, and it doubles down on what kind of game it is. It's a hard game that takes itself very seriously, and I love being able to immerse myself into its gameplay systems and its world building along with my friends. In an interview with Hidetaka Miyazaki, the director behind many of FromSoft's greatest games, he talked about his philosophy on why FromSoft's games have never featured difficulty options. He said that he wanted as many players as possible to experience the joy that comes from overcoming hardship, and that over the years, it has formed the basis of FromSoft's identity as a game studio. Miyazaki's philosophy on game design really resonated with me the more I thought about GTFO and what it stood for. In essence, GTFO is meant to be a 4-player game. A cooperative experience where you and your friends overcome the many ruthless challenges the game will throw at you. Of course, you can play GTFO on your own, and I'm sure you can still find a lot of enjoyment in playing solo, but ultimately, you'd be missing a core component of the game: cooperation. And that's why I only ever play GTFO when I have a full party with my friends. It's my personal preference, and to me, it's just more fun that way. Whenever we play, we do our best to improve at the game, but never too serious to the point that we're not having fun anymore. Regardless of how hardcore GTFO can be, we still find ways to goof off and troll each other from here and there. At the end of the day, it's a video game. We're meant to play video games for fun. To me, GTFO is a casually hardcore shooter game that is more fun to play when you're with the right group of friends. Besides, really difficult games can be discouraging to play on your own sometimes, especially when you fail over and over again. But if you have the power of friendship, then anything is possible. Even the impossible, with the homies right by your side, seems possible. Work together or die together. In Miyazaki's words, hardship is what gives meaning to the experience. And in my words, sometimes experiencing hardship with friends you can rely on, friends that you can trust, could be better than experiencing hardship all on your own. And that's true not only in the context of a video game, but also in real life. With that, let's GTFO out of here. Thank you for watching.
I think it's downstairs.
That'd be
Maybe we
blue.
should-
I think we just kill this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gun.
You got it?
Oh,
You missed!
You missed. You missed. Kill it, bro. It's still alive.
We're chilling. We're chilling.